I'm Jim Littles, the Academic Director for Purpose Institute. I'd like in this video to give an overview of the Field Experience Campus Director. You will play a pivotal role, a vital role in this vital component of your local campus. God has sent you into the local mission field as the intersection point, the nexus point, if you would, where men and women of faith are being further equipped for their service in the field. From my perspective, serving as a field experience director in my local campus in Garland, Texas is an honor. It's an honor to serve. Part of PI's genius is its adaptability to the local level. Each campus has slightly different needs. Campuses that are in a district model might be used to equip ministers for that local district with a focus on church planting, perhaps. If it's a campus such as the one at Penn State and obviously Pennsylvania, their campus is going to be different than others. Most of its students are going to be from the university there. As I had the privilege of being a guest lecturer for Pennsylvania several years ago, there was a doctoral candidate that was there who was also a PI student. Well, that campus is going to be different than a campus somewhere else for a heritage church that might have been around 70 or 80 years, but is now looking at the harvest field in a new and vibrant way. So as you serve as a field experience director at the local level, you will see the needs of your local campus, as well as the diversity of students' abilities, and see those diversities as an asset, not a deficit. I'm thankful that I have some ladies in my campus who are Latino. English is their second language. Oh, they have a passion for the field, and I am more than happy to work with them. They might struggle with some of the paperwork and writing out some things, but their passion for the field more than makes up for deficits they may have in reading English and writing in English. On the other hand, at one time, I had an attorney. He has graduated now from PI, but as an attorney, he had a high-level job in our community, profession in our community. God was using him at PI the same time where we had some folks who had not even graduated from high school. So as field experience director, you're going to know your individual students and connecting them to the field in front of you. I trust that you have a passion for mentoring, or you would not be engaged in Purpose Institute already, as discipleship helps folks live toward the need to relate and to serve with others. As lifelong learners, they are growing and maturing over time, and what a delight to know that you will play a significant role in that. Jesus himself served as a mentor, as did the apostles. They would teach large groups as well as teaching smaller groups, and then mentoring individuals also. Jesus had a relationship with Peter and with John that was different from the 12, which was different from the 70, which was different from the 5,000, zeroing in on the specific needs. Even with Mary, who sat at his feet in Luke chapter 10 as a disciple, being able to mentor her and the ways that she would go from there and serve others. Your mentoring relationship attends to all levels of learning. Mentoring relationship attends to all levels of learning. Unfortunately, in North America, we've seen learning as primarily a cognitive or a mental process. We kind of wish we could take a thumb drive or now have a Wi-Fi connection to people's brains, hit download, and we would dump all of the information down and our job would be over. That is not learning. Learning goes far beyond the cognitive process. Yes, students must remap their mind with learning. We call that orthodoxy, having right awareness and right understanding. Field experience also requires an emotional learning, because in field experience, they'll experience folks going through crises or needs, or helping folks celebrate milestones in their life, have to make volitional life choice decisions. as they're doing their field experience, they will go through some spiritual crisis on their own. We call this orthopathy, or internal learning. So they're learning, cognitive learning in their mind, emotional learning in the interior areas, but they're also having behavioral learning. They're learning how to do things. Their hands are being filled with service. We call that orthopraxy, praxis learning, practice learning. Your passion for mentoring is going to go to all three levels. You're going to be aware of the students' developmental needs, how they're learning mentally, how they're learning to grow and mature as emotional, spiritual, and volitional or willful, making the right choices for God's purposes and designs, as well as orthopraxy, the practices that they are having as they continue to grow and mature as disciples in the field. As we look at this field-driven, mission-driven purposes, nothing else matters. So as they fulfill the covenant the students have in their own learning, this goes all the way back to Genesis chapter 12, where the covenant with Abraham was that through Abraham and through his family, all nations of the earth would be blessed. What an overarching covenant. And sometimes covenants look that way. It's overarching, where the whole world is being transformed. David, as he goes to defeat Goliath, he says the outcome of this is that God would be known and would be glorified. The relationship to the field, every covenantal relationship, goes on to God's mission. So as a field experience director, you're going to help students tailor their vision, tailor their insights for that field practice and that field purpose. Jeremiah chapter 29 is often quoted in verse number 11, which says, I know my thoughts that I think towards you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not evil, to give you an expected end. Oh, that is easily calligraphied onto a board and put on the wall because it's so exciting. But the context of Jeremiah 29 was not too terribly exciting. Jeremiah was talking about 70 years of captivity. And that 70 years of captivity, they would leave their homeland. The temple would be destroyed. Their family homestead would be burnt to the ground and would be left to the beasts of the field. But as they were carried away, Jeremiah said, you need to build houses where you go. You need to get married. You need to have sons and daughters. And you're going to pray for the peace of the city where I send you. For in the peace thereof you will have peace. The context in which you live, the context in which you serve, even if it's a captivity season. Some of your students are going to be in their early ages of ministry with excitement and passion. You're going to have some students who are perhaps at the latter end of life and wondering what to do now in their retirement years. The wonderful reality of field experiences helps students to recognize the way in which everything they're learning goes into the field even now. They live on the purpose of the field. Jesus taught that the field was white with harvest. The Olivet Discourse, which he gave during Passion Week, as he was looking forward to the cross, he gave the vision of his second coming. Between the cross and his second coming, the church was to live on mission. That Olivet Discourse gives related to the talents, parables related to the sheep and goat, and the parable of the 10 virgins. Each of those parables talk about living out in real time between the kingdom that has started and the kingdom that is complete. And your job as field experience director is to help students live out the kingdom right here, right now. As such, you serve as the point person for students and the supervisors. The students, as well as those who are overseeing their service in the field. As you already are aware, each student will be expected to complete 6 credits for the foundational level and 6 credits for the advanced level. Each credit requires 5 hours of service at minimum. Of course, they are able to serve beyond that. So for instance, if a student is wanting to serve under children's ministry, they might lead up or be a part of a Wednesday night children's ministry program. It's going to take more than 5 hours over the course of a semester. So they might file for 2 credits that semester. That's fine, and they will be doing more than the 10 hours. The categories, as you are aware: local church participation, stuff inside the building; disciple making, things related to evangelism, to teaching home Bible studies, to discipling individuals and families, as well as missional engagement in the field, which might be a food bank or helping grief, recovery, those kinds of things in the community. I'd like to speak a little bit about your role expectations that you will have. You can find this in the Field Experience Handbook. You should be aware of everything that's in the Field Experience Handbook so you can answer questions for others that they may have. You are the local on-site expert in field experience. It may sound like a daunting task at the beginning. Please recognize your growth and your maturity in this area as you receive this wonderful service opportunity. Be willing to grow and mature in this over several years' time. I do this in my local campus in Garland. I also did this for a seminary, Urshan Graduate School, for a number of years. It's something to which you grow and mature in over time. So don't have anxiety. You've not been given this task for anxiety and fear. Cast that anxiety on the Lord, for He cares for you. So as you read through the handbook, highlight each of the roles folks will have. One of the tasks you will need to do is to make a system for recording student progress. If you're a digital geek, you may do this all in the digital way. I'm an old school person who still uses fountain pens and likes to have nice paper. So for me in Garland, it makes more sense for me to have an individual physical folder for each of my PI students. And there I can collect all of the documents that come in along the way. Make a system that works for you, but you must have a system. Develop a system that is useful for you. It's going to track students and record their progress over time. You're going to need to host a new student field experience orientation each semester if you have new students. That way you can talk about the program, give an overview of the various forms that they will have, and give them examples for each of those forms. There will be a later video for each form, and I'll talk about each of the components there. You can look at those videos on how to show students how to do the various forms. You'll meet with students as necessary to brainstorm options. If someone has administrative skills and giftings in their secular work, as they are moving into field experience, you're not going to place them at a level of shuffling paper. Instead, you might connect them to the church secretary or to a deacon in charge of administration, if that's their placement task, and help them create systems perhaps for your local congregation where they can share the resources from their secular work into their local congregation work. If they're an educator, obviously you're going to apply them in the field perhaps to levels of places of education where they can use those experiences which God has placed in their hand. This is an example of similar to Daniel and his 3 friends, or Nehemiah, who were equipped through the educational systems of Babylon and Persia, respectively. And God used those training avenues to equip them to do spiritual leadership for their people as necessary. The next thing you're going to do is coordinate with pastors if you have multiple churches that are being served. Our congregation, our campus on the Garland congregation serves multiple churches, so I need to coordinate with pastors of those churches to make sure that the mentoring that's happening there, the service that happens there, fits in with the expectations of those local congregations. You're going to review and sign the placement covenants. please see that video on placement covenants. In that process, you're going to help students clarify their learning objectives, learning outcomes, clarify and make sure that they have coordinated with the supervisor, whether it's someone that's in your congregation or someone that's in the community. You will collect and review the supervisor's evaluation, students' reflections after they complete that process. You'll help students celebrate their learning. For me, I do that in the context of testimonials within a PI class. This semester, I have the privilege of teaching the course on the historical and poetic books. So in the context of the course, I could have students testify of some things that are happening in their field experience. So that not only drives home the learning that they've experienced and celebrate the good things God's done in their life, but it gives an opportunity to share the kinds of things that other students in the class may be able to do. Finally, as students post their field experience credit request on the PI website, you will go into the website and you will sign off on, you will award those credits. Hopefully this gives you a good overview of your specific role, the pivotal role you play. I pray that the Lord gives you spiritual insight. I pray that as you see the students on your campus, He gives you an ability to see the developing spiritual gifts and insights that are in every single student. I pray that the awareness of where they are becomes fresh in you, and you play a pivotal role in their maturation as men and women of faith. And I pray that the Lord gives you the ability to help teachers and youth ministers and gerontology ministers or whatever ministers in your local congregation see the ways in which they can use PI students to engage in ministry right now. Don't have them wait until they graduate PI. God is sending them right now for a purpose and a design. This is an exciting time for you, and I pray that even as you're watching this video, you feel the unction of the Spirit as God calls you and equips you for this hour. And I pray that you recognize the way in which field experience provides an opportunity for God to use you for kingdom purposes in this hour. It's necessary because the field is white with harvest.